So he'll be. But I'll still be questions. Yep. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of Wyndham City Council, Tuesday the 5th of September 2017. In the spirit of reconciliation, before we begin this meeting, I acknowledge the peoples of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which Wyndham is being built. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Please stand for the opening prayer and welcome. We pray for guidance in the Council's decision-making to achieve the best outcomes for the people of Wyndham. Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome members of the gallery, the public, the press in joining us here tonight. I advise that I will be chairing the meeting as the Mayor is an apology, as he's participating in a Lead West delegation in Canberra with a number of other mayors in the Western region, along with Kelly Grigsby, our CEO, and Natalie Walker, Head of Strategy, Policy and Impact. Alongside me, I have Director of Life, Jenny McMahon, who will be a stand-in tonight for Kelly Grigsby. I would like to also welcome some of the current participants in Wyndham's Building Blocks Community Leadership Program, who are here to observe local democracy in action. Wyndham Building Blocks is a 10-week program that seeks to develop the leadership capacity of local residents. I understand the group attending tonight are from the Werribee Centre program and are currently exploring opportunities to further enhance and develop in this area. The program commenced as a pilot in April 2014, and over 260 locals aspiring new and emerging leaders have successfully completed the program, and many have gone on to do some great work in our community. I thank you for devoting your time in working with us, and we wish you all the best for the community leadership journeys that you have in our city. Item 2, apologies and requests for leave. We have Councillor Henry Barlow, we have Councillor Mia Shaw, Councillor Peter Maynard and Councillor Aaron Ann. Councillor Peter Maynard and Councillor Aaron Ann are both on approved leave of absence, and we are here to approve leave of absence for Walter Villan-Gonzalez on the 23rd of September to the 3rd of October, Councillor Mia Shaw from the 6th of October to the 17th of October inclusive, and leave of absence for Councillor Gibbons that was taken on the 21st of August 2017 and the 4th of September 2017. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gilligan and Councillor Hooper. Any discussions, councillors? No discussion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Declarations and conflicts of interests or conflicting personal interests in any item of the agenda. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you. My first conflict is 6.4.2, which is open space requirement on further subdivision of residential land in established Wyndham. The next conflict is 6.5.1, adjustments to the 2017-18 budget, which concerns the Werribee CBD, of which I have a commercial property. And the third item is in the confidential items tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Given that I have a conflict of interest on item 6.5.1, adjustments to the 2017-18 budget, greening of the pipeline, as I'm a director at City West Water. I also have a conflict on item 6.4.3, WYP 977417, planning permit application for lot subdivision of 180 to 200 Panham Drive. My son works up until the 3rd of September at the Hobbers Club as a casual person, and my parents lived in a close vicinity of the area. Could I have a motion to confirm that Councillor Marcus, so could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor.
A mover of what?
For the minutes.
Oh, sorry.
So
You've got to move that for the conflicts of interest.
yes.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Can we move the conflicts of interest? Councillor Hooper, Councillor Gilligan. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now, Councillor, during my
No, you will call that later. You've got to do the arts and cultures.
I've got it here. Councillor Marcus, during my conflicts of interest, we will be calling Councillor Marcus to, where is it? Councillor to raise her hand. Sorry. Yeah, to chair the meeting later on during my conflicts. So thank you. Now, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary council meeting, Tuesday the 1st of August. Councillor Hooper, Councillor Walter Villan-Gonzalez. Any discussions, councillors? No. No discussion? All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Yeah, that's right. I think it's further on. Further. Oh. One of the highlights of any councillor is to acknowledge the great work that our youth do in our city. And tonight we have some Merrill Awards. As I said, Councillor Henry Barlow is an apology tonight, and he congratulates everybody for those that are receiving awards tonight. Wyndham City is proud to support and recognise the achievements and contributions made by young people in our community. Each quarter, a number of young people under 25 years are presented with the Merrill Youth Award, which includes a certificate of recognition and a grant of $500. Applications are assessed by a panel that consists of Wyndham City Mayor Henry Barlow, the Youth Project Officer, Youth Services staff members and young people from the Youth Task Force. Recipients of the award also go into the running of naming Wyndham's Young Achiever of the Year Award. Tonight I have the pleasure in making 5 presentations, 3 for the March quarter for 2017 and 2 for the June quarter. The first recipient for the March quarter is Melanoon Sapu. Melanoon Sapu is 18 years of age and lives in Wyndham Vale. She's been recognised for her achievements in community service and volunteering. Melanoon has been a member of the not-for-profit organisation Doors of Opportunity in Wyndham Vale for the last 5 years, and also a member of the Culture Club and 3DC Performance Group. Through these groups, she has volunteered her time for many fundraising events. Melanoon has also volunteered to teach the class for Study Club, regularly assists with setting up the room for programs and to begin and assists with teaching performances. Additionally, she participates in showcasing her culture through performance at local festivals. Congratulations, Melanan. Would you like to say some words?
I'd just like to thank the Wyndham City Council for giving me this award. Thank you.
Fuapuna Patty, could you come to the lectern, please? Fuapuna is that how I say your name correct? Fupana. Okay. Is 19 years old and lives in Werribee. She's been recognised for her contributions in community service and volunteering. Her achievements include undertaking her role as Secretary for the Doors of Opportunity, where she also volunteers her time to assist students in both the Study Club and Culture Club, assists with fundraising and connecting with Simoon Victim Support Group. Fupana also assists with preparing and planning activities, helps to teach cultural dances to children and performs at local festivals and events. Congratulations, Fupana.
I'm very grateful for this opportunity to receive such an award. It's such an honour to work with young people within our community. I'm currently a second-year student at Victoria University doing a bachelor's degree of youth work. So it's a great honour. Thank you.
Madeline Page, could you come to the lectern? Madeline is 15 years of age and lives in Tarneit. She's been recognised for her achievements in arts and culture due to her achievements in dancing. Since she started dancing in 2011, Madeline has received a Passion Award, a Rising Star Award, a half-year scholarship for dancing to a dancing school. She is accepted into the Transit Dance Origins Company and their extensions program, receiving an Excellence Award and Dedication and Development Award, and regularly assists with teaching young children at her dance school. Madeline has overcome great physical and mental challenges in recent years, yet she remains determined and committed to pursuing dancing. Congratulations, Madeline.
Thank you so much for this award. I'm really grateful, and thank you to my family at the back there, always supporting me. Yeah, thank you.
Now, I'm not sure if Declan's here tonight. No, okay, he's not coming. But I will read out his award. Declan is 19 years of age and lives in Tarneit. He's been recognised for his contributions in community service and volunteering. Declan was a member of the CFA from the age of 10 up until recently and has been awarded the CFA Junior of the Year. During this time, he attended many fires and car accidents as a volunteer. His volunteering efforts include assisting with fundraising for the Cancer Council and Daffodil Day, as well as participating in the Relay for Life each year, and has been involved in fundraising efforts for the Royal Children's Hospital Appeal, the Pink Ribbon Day and Red Nose Day. So congratulations, Declan. Now, I'm not sure if Jessica Rule is here. Thank you. Hi, Jessica. Jessica is 22 years old and lives in Tarneit. She's been recognised for her achievements in arts and culture. Jessica recently graduated with a Bachelor of Illustration and is currently studying concept art. Her work has been displayed at several galleries and events across Melbourne and has upcoming shows with Off the Curb Gallery in Collingwood and the Brunswick Street Gallery. She's currently working on a picture book project with a published author in Melbourne and is a member of the Wyndham Arts Collective Group and Illustrators Australia and has her own band, Jessica Jane Illustration. Congratulations, Jessica.
I just wanted to thank the Wyndham City. It's really exciting to be recognised for my work. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We have one final winner who was unable to come here tonight this evening also, and that's Jessica Ricky. Jessica Ricky is 23 years of age and lives in Tarneit. She's been recognised for achievements in arts and culture. Jessica runs a lifestyle blog and YouTube channel with over 30,000 subscribers, which is amazing, and is responsible for all the aspects of business such as photography, lighting, editing, negotiating with brands and proofing contracts. Her other achievements include being the finalist of the Rising Social Star Award, spokesperson for the GHT Breast Cancer Awareness Campaign, a member of YouTube Australia Young Content Creators Seminar and Save Water Award Photography winner. Congratulations, Jessica. I'd just like to congratulate on behalf of this council all the winners tonight. Your work doesn't go unnoticed. I'd like to thank those that have nominated these inspiring young individuals so we can recognise and show the great work that is happening with our young people in Wyndham. This council looks forward to seeing more individuals being recognised in the 4 categories, which is sport, community service and volunteering, music and the art and a miscellaneous category. So for more information, to contact our Youth Project Officer. But congratulations to everybody that was successful in the awards. Thank you. Officers' reports. 6.1 petitions.
There are none, sorry.
Okay. Strategic reports.
There are none.
6.3 policy and advocacy. We have item 6.3.1 city forest and habitat strategy. Report on pages 9 to 15 with a recommendation on page 10. Do I have a mover? Councillor Marcus, and seconded by Councillor Khan. Discussion, councillors? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. This is a very, very important strategy that we're putting out for public comment, and I do hope that you will all read it and send in your comments to the council regarding this one. So what I would like to go on to say is that the Wyndham City Forest and Habitat Strategy aims to protect and enhance our significant natural assets, including our distinctive boulevards of trees, significant trees, areas of conservation, value and habitat areas for our native species. Our community consultation at the outset of this plan showed us that the Wyndham community cares and values our natural assets. Moving forward, we aim to use planning controls and other mechanisms to protect and enhance these valuable resources. Recent tree removals from our development community has highlighted that we need to strengthen our policy position to ensure further loss of important vegetation is preserved. Wyndham City manages over 200,000 trees in local streets and open spaces. But with our municipality growing so fast, it's important that we work even harder to balance this growth and the protection of our local environment. And I'm very proud to be the environment portfolio, and we plan to work really hard over the next 4 years. That's why this draft strategy is so important, with the main objectives including increasing our urban tree canopy cover, protecting and managing local trees and significant landscapes. And as we all know, our blocks are getting smaller and it's very difficult to get our trees in the backyard, so this is why this is so important. Through this draft strategy, Council is seeking nominations and advice on significant trees throughout Wyndham, and we do have many beautiful significant trees which we plan to make sure that they go onto the tree register. These will then be added to a preliminary list that has already been compiled through initial consultation. All of these nominations will then need further assessment. This is a good chance for you all and all of our residents to have a say in how we manage our local environment. Our community has proven how much they care and how much you care about our local trees. So we want as many people as possible to help shape this strategy so it can guide the work that we do in the future. Just a little thing, the cat and dog strategy, 891 people replied to us, so come on, our environment people, we want what you want to see in this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Any further discussion? Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Mayor. And I think it's worth highlighting very briefly that this is a good example of an urban municipality accepting that we are not a concrete city, and certainly suggesting through a policy such as this one that we need to invest in both city, coast and also country. And I think that this is a good example of us leading the way, whether it's the 1 million tree canopy project that we're working with in the broader western suburbs, not just the City of Wyndham. And I know Councillor Villagonzalo is a passionate advocate for investing in this space, but I think it is important to look at it from the context of an urbanised area, recognising the importance of having that diversity in our city, making sure we invest in that as we see the encroachment of higher housing stock, particularly in our municipality. And so I think it's worth highlighting that. And finally, I'll make a brief comment. One of the key memories I have last year during the election campaign was a RMIT professor in Chafee Ward emailing me and saying, what are we doing in biodiversity and the environment space? And it is exciting only 9 to 10 months into an election term to see this fantastic strategy pop up. So I hope that particular individual contributes to it, but more broadly, it's great to see that sort of talent in our city consulting and working with the local democratic process to invest in a strong policy setting. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilligan. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I put the motion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 6.3.2, Growing Suburbs Fund Application 2017 to 19. The report is on page 16 to 19 with recommendation on page 16. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gilligan and seconded by Councillor Khan. Discussion, councillors? Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think this is obviously an important aspect of council advocating for important community infrastructure needs, and this Growing Suburbs Fund is a great example of us doing that in this space. If you look at the historic reference of some of the projects that we've been able to get vital funding for, in the last financial year we had the Mossfield Reserve Integrated Sports and Community Hub, whether it was the Mainview Boulevard Reserve Pavilion, and even before that, looking at our Churnside Park redevelopment. Many in the audience today would be aware of that investment. A great example of funds that have came from the Growing Suburbs Fund. And it is important for us to continue to advocate the importance of fighting for these funds, particularly in a rate capping environment, and obviously making sure that the western suburbs, but even more so growing suburbs, get the funding that they need. And indeed, if you look at some of the projects that we're investing in, it's very much around community. One of the key passion areas of mine is very much in with young people. And so if you look at some of the proposals that we're seeking to invest in, particularly around youth spaces, but even more broadly about families, whether it's early childhood education, and really looking at how we bring more community harmonisation here in Wyndham through some of these infrastructure projects. So obviously, I hope we get funding for all of these projects. That would be a fantastic result for this city. But at the very least, I expect, given the nature of the population growth out here, we should expect a proportion, a very fair and reasonable proportion of taxes, particularly from the state government, and that being redistributed back into our city. And certainly the Treasurer advocates very strongly about making sure that revenue comes on a proportionality basis. Well, obviously residents in our city would equally expect a fair and proportionate investment given the growth we're facing. So they're the comments that I'll make on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Any further discussions? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to see this growing suburbs. As you all realise, that we are one of 23 growth councils around Australia, and I had the pleasure of working for the NGAA, and I saw the difficulties that all of our growth councils experienced. This is all right, but it's a bit of a pittance, and I'd like to see a whole lot more, for the simple reason that you all know that we have 88 babies a week being born, and we have 10,000 new people moving in. It doesn't appear that that growth will stop for a while. So we all need to make sure that we're out there advocating to the state and federal government to say, hey, listen here, you want the population to continue out in these growth suburbs. We need help and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to also make mention of the fact that affordable housing, or the spectre of affordable housing, has been rearing its head over the past couple of months. We all know that that means smaller houses, more densely populated streets, roads that are clogged up. This growing suburbs funding helps address part of that. As those houses are getting denser and denser, there's less space for kids to play in backyards and to swing a cat. We all know about when we're growing up and being able to swing a cat around in backyards. You can't do that in this day and age. But at least the government is providing some park space so we can kick a football, play cricket, and enjoy our neighbourhoods and have a picnic with our friends. So I'm glad to see the submission go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Look, I think the previous speakers have covered pretty much about how important it is to do submission for the growing suburbs funding application. This application was submitted successfully with council officers, and thank you very much, council officers who worked hard. Now it was closed on 10th of August, and we'll be hearing very soon, but it's important to mention that 2015 and 16 were received from under that program 4.1 million, and 2016-17 we received 5.4 million. This application is pretty important because, as the name says, growing suburbs fund and application. So that means is now we are entitled to apply. As we're meeting the requirement, and officers have done the work. Now, just the officers highlighted and identified what programs are important to do submission for this application, which is Williams Landing Reserve and Integrated Sports and Community Hub. We put a proposal that we will seek a $3.8 million for that project to complete it if the funding will be granted. And following the Tarneit Community Learning Centres and Transformation, we're requesting $2.2 million under that application. And GSF, which is a Growing Suburbs Fund, will be utilised, which is $1,085,850. And it's obviously, though, for Truganina East Integrated Family Learning Centre, is also requesting for that project to be $5.5 million, and grant Growing Suburbs funding contribution will be sought $1.2 million, and Saltwater Outdoor Youth Space, we haven't forgotten youth, those who are interested, we'll be looking forward to do the project, which is going to cost us $624,000, and we hoping if we get this successfully, this application is successful, we'll spend $200,000. And that is a good work council is doing, haven't forgotten. This is a good program council put forward, and we hope so the state government will grant all this demand we're demanding. By the way, also bear in mind, this application require a contribution from the council. So that means now we also have to tip the money from our own pocket. It's just not the government have to do it. So we are taking care of your needs, you need it, and we're advocating behalf of you to state government. We seek though you also request your local member of parliament, also the member of parliament, to support this application because it supports everybody's interest. Thank you, Deputy Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Walter Villon-Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. Wyndham is experiencing significant growth, and we expect this to continue in the future. So like the rest of the council, of my fellow councillors, I welcome the fact that the Growth Suburbs Fund recognizes the growth of cities like Wyndham and the need for infrastructure to catch up. I support and endorse the officer's recommended list, and when we are successful in getting funding, we can expect that this will add to our local infrastructure spend and create more local jobs for local residents. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Walter Villon-Gonzalez. No further question, no further discussion? All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 6.4.1, WYP 9572/16, planning permit application 21 Station Street, Little River. Moved by Councillor Hooper.
I'd like to make a few amendments to the recommendation. At 1E, colour and material schedule showing use of non-reflective and muted tones. I'd like that replaced with colour and material schedule showing use of muted green colour known as M32 green grey or similar to Council's satisfaction. And also under maintenance, the colour finish to the telecommunications tower and any associated equipment, shelters, must be maintained to the satisfaction of the responsible authority.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Marcus. Discussion, councillors?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is quickly just an adjustment. We need telecommunication towers within our community, but by making these slight changes, it's making it agree more to the environment that it's going into. We're releasing a habitat strategy which is under draft review, and this, to me, is something in line with that. Just because we need telecommunication towers, it doesn't mean they have to be an obstruction to the view that everyone has. Now, it's very hard to pretty them up, I'll admit that, but at least make it complement the colour of the environment that it's going into, and then it's not so much of an eyesore. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Marcus.
I'd just like to say this, Councillor Hooper, how creative and innovative you have become to want to change our light poles to green. I think this one is all the requirements in the item here, they all comply, and it will have no detrimental effects to the close by land, so I have no hesitation in voting for this telecommunications tower. And it's beautiful green. I'm quite sure the people of Little River will love you forever.
I hope so.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Do I have any further discussion, councillors? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Look, quite often when we put telecommunication towers, we receive a number of objections, but I'm surprised people have not objected to this telecommunication tower. I would also like to mention that some of those telecommunication towers can be painful. We receive feedbacks in past from the Hopper Crossing in Point Cook, but however, though, I'm happy to see that, that Little River people haven't put up any objections regarding this application. Happy to be supported by this. Also, though, I'm very pleased to see that planning application being assessed by council officers, given considerations, tree protection zone. So it is important to see that there has been mentioned that trees would be protected under the Australian Standard AS 4970/2009, protection of the trees and development site to be satisfied with the responsible authority. So we don't like to see the tree get cut, and at the moment was a big issue in area regarding the trees. Obviously, we need more tree plantation. So I'm glad that this will go up. And however, though, having a green colour, that's much more exciting to see that, Councillor Hooper have put up that request, and I echo his voice. And that will definitely makes it look nice, and rather than just looks ugly. This is my personal view. And good on you, Councillor Hooper, a little bit of being innovative and giving directions to how can we sort of match the colours when we put projects like this or permit like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. I think we've got one abstaining. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Strategic and Town Planning, we have a second one. WYP, item 6.4.2, WYP 9772/17, planning permit application, 33 Leatherwood Drive, Hoppers Crossing. Use and develop land for a double-storey dwelling to the rear of the existing dwelling and removal of a restrictive covenant, V929465S. Report on page 33 to 47 with the recommendation on page 34, and there's an attachment of 48 to pages 48 to 62. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Hooper, seconded by Councillor Gibbons. Discussion, councillors? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'm pleased to support the motion tonight to refuse the application for a second dwelling and removal of a restrictive covenant. I'm not going to go into the legal policy and planning implications of the removal of a restrictive covenant tonight, or the Pandora's box that it could possibly open. Suffice it to say that I agree its removal would be inconsistent with the neighbourhood character and other outcomes sought in this area. This view is supported by the fact that nearly 50% of objectors also have these legal restrictions on their sites. One detailed observation I would like to, however, single out is the fact that the proposal would result in a broader loss of amenity by creating a lot size for dwelling 2 of 430 square metres, which is considerably less than the average lot area of existing lots in this subdivision. I note that the site falls within what in our planning scheme we will call the incremental change area, and this area allows for second dwellings. But there's a clear reason why the application fails to support the existing neighbourhood character, because it does not allow for enough open space around that second dwelling, a requirement deeply valued by the community. I'd also observe that this application, similar to one will be considered later in the agenda, would require the expansion of a vehicle crossover, which would lead to the loss of existing development of street trees. I believe this applicants need to find design responses that respect the amenity that residents gain from existing street trees, and this one does not. For these reasons, I'm pleased to support the motion to refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Gilligan?
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Acting Mayor. Look, very briefly, I just want to echo the words of Councillor Hooper. I think that the community did a fantastic job in highlighting the restrictive covenant provisions down in that area, and really, from my perspective, that element of the application, I think, is where it should be more weighted as opposed to some other elements of the application, in that the diversity of our city and indeed the historic nature of that particular area of our municipality must be preserved, and so as part of that, and indeed that is a key factor in my decision to support the refusal. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Do I have any further discussion on the matter? No further discussion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Yes. Councillors, could I have a motion to confirm that Councillor Marcus will chair the next meeting item that I have a conflict of interest, which is 6.4.3, planning permit application for a fourth lot subdivision at 180 to 200 Panham Drive, and also for item number 6.5.1, adjustments to the 2017 budget to do with greening of the pipeline, because I'm a director of City West Water. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Gibbons. Seconder. Councillor Marcus, any discussion? No? All in favour? Okay.
Sorry, point of clarification.
Yep.
Can the individual that's been put up second that motion?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you. All in favour? Okay. I will now depart, leave the chamber while a decision is made on that application.
Thank you. Councillors, item 6.4.3, WYP 9774/17, planning permit application for 4 lot subdivisions, 180 to 200 Panham Drive, Hoppers Crossing. Do I have a mover, please, councillors? Councillor Hooper. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Villa Gonzalez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, we can't. Yeah.
Yes, we have a problem.
So for everyone in the gallery tonight, we have 11 councillors at this council, which means we need 6 councillors present to discuss this item and to vote on it. As we do not have 6 councillors, we will have to defer this item to a following council meeting. Or do you think he's going to come back?
Yes.
Oh, he is? Oh, sorry.
Let's have a coffee break. Okay, 5-minute coffee break. Democracy in action.
Defer the item.
Heather?
Defer it.
Defer it.
Defer it. No, defer it. Defer it. Sorry, this item will be deferred until the next meeting in a month's time. Thank you. Can somebody please call Councillor
Need a motion?
No.
It's technically lapsed.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus.
Lapse because we can't vote on it.
So,
Okay. Okay. Have we skipped? Okay. Item 6.4.4, planning application WYP 1000/17, planning permit application 31 Santander Crescent, Point Cook, with the report on page 106 to 124 and the recommendation on page 107 to 108 with attachments 125 to 131. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hooper. Seconded, Councillor Gilligan. Discussion, councillors? Yep. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Before I make further comments, I wanted to observe that in the short time I have been a councillor, this motion tonight, in my view, represents one of the easiest ones I've been able to support.
Yeah.
Or to put it another way, saying no in this case is not just a line ball call, it's a clear and solid no. This view seems also to be supported by the number of objections, which alone is not the sole reason for councillors to consider, but is indicative of widespread community concerns. While the report notes that the application supports the state government's policy supporting urban consolidation, I agree strongly that it is clearly counter to existing neighbourhood character. We have many items on our agenda tonight to consider, so I won't labour the points about non-compliance with other state and local planning policies. These are outlined and discussed in detail in the officer's report to Council tonight. I did, however, want to specifically mention a few areas which, in my view, let the cat out of the bag. Another mention of cats. That this proposal is an overdevelopment of the site. These areas include insufficient width of vehicle crossings, which could lead to the loss of on-street parking, the loss of established street trees, and too much hard sand surfaces. The dominance of 4 single garages at the ground level, which would dominate the front facade and result in no active street frontage. The visual bulk of the large upper story, insufficient front and side setbacks, and of great concern, particularly for any future resident of this planned site, poor solar access for a number of rooms, or in other words, windows, and lack of them. I could go on, but I don't think I need to. In conclusion, this overdevelopment of the site and lack of support for state and local planning policies makes it easy for me to say no as a councillor elected to support good planning outcomes. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Mayor. Look, I completely agree with Councillor Hooper's rhetoric and simply state that I think if the community were to drive past this site, look at it, look at the fantastic modern home that exists on it, and then consider the demolition of that site and the placement of 4 dwellings on it, they would question, in my view, from a community perspective, about whether that's acting in the best interests of that site and indeed that neighbourhood and indeed our community. I think this is a very interesting challenge being placed before council to consider these sorts of applications. Given the context of what I've just laid out, I am, I guess, flabbergasted, to say the least, that this has appeared before council. I am concerned about the nature of these sorts of applications moving forward and what that would mean for us essentially either approving or obviously not approving, depending which way council made the determination, the demolition of such a fantastic, well-built home in the context of, as Councillor Hooper pointed out at the start of this meeting, affordable housing, etc., etc. So I just thought I would make those points in the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Any further discussion, councillors? No further discussion. I put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 6.4.5, WIP 10016/17, Building and Works for a Sports Pavilion in association with Open Sports Ground 44, Williams Landing Boulevard, Williams Landing. The report on page 132 to 152 with a recommendation on 133 and 136 with attachments to page 153 to 159. Do I have a mover? Councillor Khan, seconded. Councillor Gibbons. Discussion, councillors? No. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, I'd just like to say this is an awesome thing to see unfolding for the community of Williams Landing. Those ovals address a significant need of that community, which is the sporting outcomes of Williams Landing. They've been designed in such a way to allow for multiple uses, soccer being one of them. And it was actually pleasing to see a soccer club, or the beginnings of a soccer club in that area. So by the time this pavilion's up and running, we should see a good little soccer club happening out of it, bringing, and look, for me coming up in the country, sports clubs really define a community. They start bringing people together in ways that you just can't replicate. And having a homegrown sporting club happening in Williams Landing for a sport that that community is desperate for, I think is just a win-win for everyone. So it's good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. No further discussion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 6.4.6, open space requirement on further subdivision of residential land established Wyndham. Councillor Marcus, you have a conflict of
I
interest,
have declared a conflict of interest.
and the reason for your conflict?
Half of it is only there. If this land that the council is deciding to buy, if it's associated with the commercial area of the CBD, then I have a conflict of interest.
Thank you,
But other
Councillor.
parks and gardens throughout the city, I do not.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Marcus. The report is on page 160 to 166 with the recommendation on 161. Do I have a mover? Oh, sorry.
I'll move it.
We just wait until Councillor Marcus moves out the chamber. Moved by Councillor Gilligan, seconded by Councillor Walla Gonzalez. Discussion, councillors? Councillor
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Mayor. Private open space in our city is diminishing. Our backyards are getting smaller. Our engagement in the outdoors is being strained by increasing housing stock, and we must be proactive to preserve and build upon our open space in this municipality. As I stated at the start of this meeting, we do not want to be known as a concrete city. We want to be known as a city that delivers coast, country and city. And indeed, Wyndham City Council has made a decision through this particular motion to be put tonight to be voted on in terms of the establishment of an open space levy on subdivision. And indeed, if you look at other municipalities, they have looked at in some way, shape or form an open space similar proposal to this one, designed to preserve and indeed to develop open space in our municipality. And I think despite a rate capping environment, Council has opted to deliver significant funds already to enhancing our open space, and indeed funds that perhaps in some respects should or could be redistributed into other areas. But that is why this policy, that is why this particular idea tonight to levy for the sole purpose of open space is so important. In my view, this helps deliver that viable alternative of funding to deal with the growing demand for a better and more modern and urbanised eco-space. And this is a step in the right direction and the answer to the call that had been made by residents about more functional parks, more investment in parks, preserving open spaces in our community, and not just more and more houses on decreasing land size allotments. If you look at some of the academic literature behind this notion of open space, you look at something like the World Health Organization, and it highlights that cities such as ours with a lack of open space leads to poorer social outcomes, less social interactions, poor walkability, and indeed high rates of morbidity and mortality. And indeed, obesity is a problem in our city, and indeed investing more in open space through this academic literature highlights that that would help reduce some of these risk factors. And if you consider the Wyndham Parks 2021 project, which indeed is part of tonight's council deliberations, it is part of a direct beneficiary of a levy such as this one. This policy is estimated to generate up to $700,000 per annum to deliver the sort of open space that is necessary in Hoppers Crossing, Werribee and Laverton North. And indeed, when we consider the context of the legacy issues that exist in these municipalities, we have significant open space deficits that we must deal with. So this is a proposition that is faced by the public. How do you fund this? How do you deliver more parks? How do you invest in developing and building and making sure that we have a better city? We've got to pay for it. And how do we pay for it? Well, in my view, a subdivision process, that is when people are seeking to advance their individual wealth, that they should give back more to ensuring that the rest of the municipality benefits from that. Not smaller backyards. That is not a benefit to our city. That is not a benefit to you. And so I think that this policy is a great opportunity for us to really once again lead the game on the advancement and development of revenues to deal with what is going to be a bigger and bigger issue as we move forward. So having that public policy there with us, walking together, hand in hand with dealing with the developmental problems in terms of growth in our city, I think should be commended, and well done to council officer staff for putting in the time and effort to look at this and come up with this proposal, and I certainly commend their work and the motion that's before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. As with Councillor Gilligan's comments, I'd like to echo those, as I am pleased to support the motion tonight, as it will see Council apply an open space requirement on the subdivision of residential land within established parts of Wyndham, where there is no previous written evidence of those requirements for open space. I'm also supporting this motion as it will commit Council to continue to look at whether other zoned areas in the established parts of Wyndham, in this case commercial and industrial land, should also attract such a requirement, after first considering the impact on development and jobs. Note, this is not a grab for cash for the sake of improving our financial bottom line. This proposal will see Council better able to provide for and improve open space within the established parts of Wyndham for future expenditure decisions to be linked to the acquisition and capital works project as guided by our open space strategy. Council and I believe the wider community also now accept the challenges posed to both established and new parts of Wyndham of our population growth, changing residential densities, and reductions in private open space, which have given way to larger houses on smaller blocks. There is plenty of research, as Councillor Gilligan has just touched on, from around the world that supports the importance contribution that access to usable open space makes to personal well-being and livability. Whether the acquisitions or improvements we make are smaller pocket parks, larger, suburb-wide or regional open space, I think an overwhelming majority of residents want these outcomes, and this is supported by our community's 2040 vision. This decision tonight will apply to specific areas we've identified, where there is no previous written evidence of this requirement in established areas. This area is clearly shown in the report in Figure 1. And I believe the collection of 5% open space requirement for these areas is overdue and reasonable. It's overdue because Council has not been collecting it, even though, as the report notes, we've had the strategic justification to do so. It's reasonable because all residentially zoned land within our precinct structure plans attracts a 10% contribution made up of 7% for open space and 3% for passive open space. It's also reasonable because many other councils collect open space contributions in established areas, and VCAT has found this to be a legitimate and benefit to the community. So, Madam Deputy Mayor, as I've said in my opening comments, I'm looking forward to the Council being able to further consider whether, in the context of jobs and future development, this contribution should also be applied to commercial and industrial land within the established parts of Wyndham. I believe it is a responsible way to make decisions and look forward to further reports from officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Any further discussions? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Look, I think it's very important just not keeping a focus out of what we're trying to do today, because what is we're talking about here, in other words, applying a levy on the designated area we've outlined and identified. It would be unfair to say that we're not now applying this concept on entire Wyndham, but we have chosen a particular area. In my view now, as it says on Figure 1, open space requirement to apply to residential zone land with an established area of the Wyndham. So we're applying this concept which already area has been established. There's a housing is already there. So that doesn't apply outside the area. Now, in other words, if anybody going to apply for subdivisions, building land, they have to comply with the levy, which is in other words. And today, since there are not many councillors here, and it's important precedent was setting it, I would like to leave the chamber and exercise my right to defer this item and discuss with the majority of councillors, because I believe this need to be discussed with the entire council, just not by the number of the councillors.
Come on, Councillor Card, you can't do this.
Excuse me.
Do I have a right of reply on that?
Just hold, I'm just getting clarification from the acting CEO.
Oh, controversial meeting tonight.
Okay.
Do we have quorum? 1, 2, 3.
No.
No, we don't have quorum. Just do that. No quorum has to be.
Okay. For the members of the gallery, we're just getting clarification on a couple of points, so we won't be too long. Thank you. We will have to defer that item 6.4.6, because we do not have a quorum tonight, unfortunately. Now that Councillor Khan has left the meeting and we have a conflict of interest with Councillor Marcus. So we will defer that item, and I ask Councillor Marcus to come back in, and Councillor Khan if he's still here. Other reports, we all in the chamber?
Yep.
Okay. Other reports, item 6.5.1, adjustments to the 2017 budget. Now, there will be 3 motions required for this report due to conflicts between Councillor Marcus and myself. So I request Councillor Marcus to repeat her declaration of conflict prior to leaving again.
Thank you. My conflict is, and these are not really explained very carefully, item number 1, Cultural Precinct Master Plan Project. I think we're talking about the Cultural Centre. 2, Activity Centre Activation. I think this is talking about the Werribee CBD Activation Plan.
Thank you,
So
Councillor.
I'll leave the council chamber.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Marcus. So it's point 1, that Council approve the proposed adjustments to the 2017-18 budget as outlined in this report. Item 1, increase the operating expenditure for the following projects totalling $53,000 where Councillor Marcus has declared a conflict. 1 is the Cultural Precinct Master Plan Project of $20,840, and 2, the Activity Centre Activation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hooper. Seconded? Councillor Gibbons. Discussion, councillors? No discussion? All in favour? Motion's carried. Could Councillor Marcus please return? Thank you, Councillor Marcus. I will be now leaving the chamber to do with my conflict in regards to the 2017-18 budget, greening of the pipeline, as I'm a director at City West Water. Thank you.
Councillors, item number 1 in the second recommendation, greening the pipeline. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Hooper and Councillor Khan. Councillors, do I have discussion on this item, please? If there is no discussion, I pass this recommendation. All in favour? Thank you.
Just put the mic.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Item 6.5.1, and now we're going to go through items point 3 and 4, increase operating expenditure for commitments resulting from unspent grants, contributions for forfeited bonds and guarantee and one-off projects received or approved in the 2016-17 budget for a specific purpose that is still to be delivered. In addition to items 1 and 2 above were conflicts of interest. $3,630,361, and number 4, reflect the unspent capital grants for capital projects by $2,986.89. Thank you. Not completed during the 2016 year. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hooper, a seconder? Councillor Gilligan, discussion, councillors? Councillor Marcus?
Yeah, there's just one thing I'd say. In other community-based projects, the first dot point is a one-off program of vaccination against meningococcal W disease. I'd like to see that every year for everybody, because I was watching the program last night and it's the most disastrous disease I've seen. So we'll come back perhaps and see if we can make sure that that's not just a one-off program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Any further discussion? All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 6.5.2, Assembly of Councillors. Report on page 175 with a recommendation on 175 and attachments 176 to 183. Moved by Councillor Gibbons and Councillor Hooper. Discussion, councillors? No discussion? All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 6.5.3, Wyndham Parks 2021 project. The report is on 184 to 188 with the recommendation on page 185. Councillor,
Jump the gun, my fault.
Could I have a mover? Councillor Hooper, and seconded by Councillor Marcus. Discussion, councillors. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'm very happy to support the recommendation to approve the Wyndham Parks 2021 project and to refer $10.1 million to the long-term financial plan through capital expenditure for delivery of the Wyndham Parks 2021 project between the 2018-19 financial year and the 2020-21 financial year. In doing so, I want to acknowledge the hard work that both council staff and elected councillors have put into getting us to this point. Too often in busy public life, you don't get the chance to celebrate success, but I'm deliberately wanting to acknowledge this work as it is a key focus that the newly elected council wanted to see action on. With the hard work and dedication of staff, we will hopefully look back at this day with some sense of celebration. Although all councillors were supportive of our first steps in committing $1.3 million in our recently passed budget and $450,000 of the available funding for the 17-18 budget to develop designs for the upgrades of district parks that can be delivered in future years of the Wyndham Parks 2021 project, I also need to acknowledge the advocacy and passion my fellow councillor Mayor Shaw has brought to our decision making as a council. Now to the detail. This decision tonight will mean all local and district parks will be developed to a consistent level, all parks. The first phase of this project that I mentioned earlier will then lead us into a further 3 years of local and district park renewal and upgrades. We will have a focus not only in new areas, but in also older areas of the city. More than 200 local and district parks will be upgraded under this initiative. So in closing, I'm sure there'll be a great deal of excitement in the community as we roll out this project and they actually see their neighbourhood parks getting some love. And I encourage the local communities to get on board with the project and hope that planting and other opportunities present themselves throughout the life of this project so the community as a whole can have a real sense of ownership of what the passion, or what one of the biggest passions of our community is, open space and being able to play with family and friends and picnic and all those sort of things that we've always taken for granted. Now, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Any further discussions? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm really happy to support the Wyndham Parks project 2021. The Yiramu Ward councillors, we drove around all of Wyndham Vale and the Yiramu Ward to have a look at our parks, and we were a little bit shocked to see the condition of some of them and some of the play equipment. So it's very timely that this has come before us. Too often today the kids sit there and they don't even want to go out and play in the park. So I think if we can uplift these parks and have more exciting play equipment, we might be able to get them from the lounge rooms and go out and be part of the parks. I live opposite a park and I never see one person in that park, and I think that's really, really sad. So it is important that, you know, we work on this. And local parks are the most accessible parks in the Wyndham Open Space Network and are typically located within 400 metres of every home, and this is what it should be. And it was mentioned before with the high-rise departments that are coming on. We will need people to be able to get out there and play in the parks, because it's vitally important that the young people and older people, even me, that we're out there exercising and enjoying our parks. So well done to the council staff for working so hard on this, and I'm quite sure that all councillors are very pleased that this has come before us, and we will pass it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. I'll be brief. I just think it's worth highlighting once again. I know Councillor Hooper has done so, but I think Councillor Mia Shaw alongside council staff should be commended. I've never seen a more fierce advocate in this space than Councillor Shaw. In the very brief time that I've worked with her, it was very obvious that her ability to really leverage significant amounts of funding for parks in this municipality through the budget process, and unfortunately she can't be here tonight, but it's worth putting that on the public record and commending her for getting this outcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Look, this is straightforward now. We talking about here 21 with the parks. That is actually money we're planning to this project with 1.3 million, and that will utilise for 38 to 45 local parks in order to make them up to the standard, upgrade the equipment and put the new grass and things like that. The project will run for 3 years. So just to make sure is going in 2 phases. Second phase, which include the heavily, and that means by the time we will have second phase established, $10.1 million to plan. So I'd like to say that on the page number 186, it says that the local park up to this consistent minimum standard to ensure the park will be welcoming and safe. So we've been now putting signage and pathways and fences and other things required. Comfortable shades, trees and shades and structures and seating, and attractive, for example, entry gardens, things like that. But also though, in particularly I have visited a number of parks now, and when you go in a park now, you don't want to see as a park. What I'm interested here, and I advocated along with Councillor Mia Shaw, we do not want to see as a park as a park. What's the great about park as a park? It needs to be, so mum and dad can come to the park and kids can play, but mum and dad also can do exercise. So talk us about that, so that we can put up some play equipment, which means the mum and dad can come, they can also enjoy and engagement with activity. So that's a great way to putting this project, and I look forward to see that the Wyndham City Council can put a playing equipment just for not the kids, for the adults. The mum and dad can also bring the kids to the park and they can enjoy. I have visited Adelaide City Council. While I was driving along the way, I saw that now they're having some open fitness equipment in a park. I was pleased to see that, how we can replicate some of these good concepts in a beautiful city like Wyndham, and where we're having a big open spaces and make the park beautiful. Now, we look forward to see the first implementation and then followed by a second phase, which will be the great one to $10.1 million. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. No further discussion? All in favour? Against? Motion's carried.
Champagne, because 200 parks are being upgraded.
Okay, we have item 6.5.4, Lawson Court paving development, report 189 to pages 189 to 193 with a recommendation on 190 and attachments 194 to 201. Do I have a mover? Councillor Khan, and seconded by Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Khan, anyone want to speak? No discussion? Okay, all in favour? Motion's carried. Against? It's carried. Okay, any notices of motion?
No, there is none.
Okay, Council Seal, item 8.1, C1773/16, reconstruction of the existing Leachard Pond at Wyndham RDF, authorisation of contract variations. Recommendation is on page 202. The report is on page 202 to 204. Moved by Councillor Tony Hooper and Councillor Gilligan. Discussion, councillors? No discussion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 8.2, C1893/17, awarding of contract alterations and extension to the Point Cook Community Learning Centre main works package. The report is on page 205 to 212 with the recommendation on 206. Do I have a mover? Councillor Khan. And seconder? Councillor Hooper. Discussion, councillors? No discussion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. I forgot. Okay, thank you. Item 8.3, review of Council's instrument of delegation, pages 213 to 216, with a recommendation on 213 to 214. And it's printed in a separate document, pages 54 to 215. Have a mover? Councillor Gibbons and Councillor Gilligan. Discussion, councillors? No discussion. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Contract summary report. Neil?
Neil?
Yep.
Sorry.
Question, item 10, questions with notice from the public gallery. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So we have quite a number of questions here tonight, so bear with me while we sort through them. So our first two questions tonight are from Adam Beans. Adam, are you here in the... Thanks, Adam. So the first question which I will answer is related to community gardens. The question is, community gardens have been shown to increase social connection, promote better community health, offer learning experiences and leadership and participation opportunities. Given that these directly align with the 2017 to 2021 Wyndham City Plan, and that the community is willing and able to make this happen, for what reason does Council not actively support and promote community gardens on public land in local residential areas? So thanks, Adam. I have got an answer here for you this evening. So I'd have to say that Council agrees with all the things that you've said about community gardens and the contributions it makes to the health and wellbeing of the community. And we are in the process of developing a community gardens policy, and that's on the basis that we are getting an increase in requests from community to do that, and we didn't have a policy framework for those for decisions to be made. The policy will carefully consider circumstances in which new community gardens can be developed on, whether that's appropriately council-owned and or managed land. And we'll be talking through that policy further with councillors as the year goes on. We would hope to be able to bring that to council before the end of the year. I do say hope, so don't hold me to that, but we'll try and get there. We also do have some existing gardens, and council does support. We do have one down at the community centre. I see you shaking your head, but we do. What I'll do for you, because there's no point us going backwards and forwards here, I'll make sure that we provide an answer to you in writing, and then we can let you know where there are some community gardens. Werribee Park, Councillor Marcus is telling me. So, okay. I'm getting lots of answers here. So anyway, what I'll do is make sure that we provide some further information for you, but thank you very much for the question. And then the second question from Adam is that many trees are planted within Wyndham in locations prepared, then mulched by council, which I thank you for. These areas have assessed to meet council and infrastructure provider requirements. There is ample room between trees to plant some vegetables, herbs or flowers. Will council support this by not removing or poisoning plants in these areas unless complaints are received or there is a direct public safety issue? Now, I will throw that across to our Director City Operations, Stephen Thorpe.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So thank you again for the question. Within our parks, if this planting was to happen and with vegetables and flowers and so on, that would constitute a community garden in the way that has previously been described. However, on nature strips, we also plant trees and we have mulch around those trees. And in those situations, there are opportunities for people to plant vegetables and flowers and other ornamental plants between the trees. The only thing we ask is that people follow our nature strip landscape guidelines, and that's essentially to prevent the creation of a hazard for public safety for people using the street. And Adam, I have a copy of that here tonight if you want to take that with you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thorpe. Our next question, which I think is, no, it is just one question, from Rocio Flores. Yes, thank you. With regards to the residential growth management strategy, what is the council currently putting in place to create adequate roads, public transport routes, recreation areas to service the ever-growing population moving into the growth areas? So if I could please ask our Director of City Economy, Innovation and Livability, Kate Roffey, to answer, please.
Thank you, Rocio. Yeah. Hi, thank you. So just a few different questions in here, so I'll answer them one at a time. So the first one with regard to precinct structure plans, they're what provide the framework for the development of our new urban areas, and PSPs, as we call them, nominate where roads, parks and community facilities go. In terms of the roads specifically, the standard is based on development guidelines that were created by what was the Growth Areas Council and now is the Victorian Planning Authority. As development occurs, developers build the local and collector roads to serve their estates and to accommodate buses. Most main roads are the responsibility of VicRoads, so they're the big declared roads, as we call them. And Council has regular meetings with VicRoads to identify and where we need to advocate for main road priorities. The announcement of the state government recently of the $1.8 billion OSAR package late last year is a direct result of this council advocating strongly for improved transport in Wyndham. We continue to liaise with Public Transport Victoria, who are responsible for the bus services. We are seeking a biannual review of the bus services, given the massive population growth that is being experienced here. We're seeking more frequent services, so we're looking at 10 or 15 minute services, but There are difficulties, of course, because public services, public transport services across Australia and most countries are heavily subsidised by government, so there is a limited amount to the number of services they can provide for everybody in Victoria, for example, but we are working on advocating more strongly for better connections for us. Council plans for adequate recreation opportunities. We do this through the implementation of adopted strategies such as the open space strategy, leisure strategy and the sports strategy, which is currently in its draft form now. While the precinct structure plans nominate the size and location of passive and active open space and community facilities in our growth areas, these strategies provide the base and decision-making framework to create a network of open space, sport, recreation and community infrastructure. This ensures that recreation opportunities are provided in the right areas to the most appropriate standard and at the right time to service the community needs. So we do look at where the growth fronts are coming and try to bring those things on in line with the growth of our municipality. Please excuse me, I've got a little touch of the flu. Council prioritises and funds this infrastructure as part of our long-term financial plan. We also, if you heard earlier tonight, apply for state government grants such as the Growing Suburbs Fund to help us support the implementation of these projects, which, as you can imagine, become quite costly at times. We also prepared Development Contribution Plan Project Implementation Programs, or DCP PIPs, as we call it, for Wyndham North and Wyndham West growth fronts, and these programs give practical effect to the number of outcomes sought in the residential growth management strategy, particularly in relation to better aligning the funding and delivery of infrastructure with the development of new communities through infrastructure prioritisation and sequencing. So there is a lot of work going on. It's complicated, but we do try and match our growth fronts and our population growth with the infrastructure we deliver.
Thanks, Kate. The next question is from Lisa Field. Is Lisa here this evening? Yes. Hi, Lisa. The waste and litter strategy refers to diverting waste from landfill and resource recovery through recycling. When will Wyndham City Council stop using single-use plastics as a council-wide policy or any other measures to reduce waste in the first place? And if I could again direct that to our Director of City Economy, Innovation and Livability, Kate Roffey.
Thanks, Lisa, for the question, and my environmental team were really pleased to get a question on our environmental targets. So Wyndham's waste and litter strategy, which is for the period 2016 to 2014, has some very ambitious targets. In fact, we've got a 90% waste diversion from landfill target. To achieve this, we not only work with our community, we need to educate our community a lot more to improve household waste practices. We also do this internally here, so we like to display corporate leadership and innovation in our own workplace. So we do make improvements to our own internal waste practices, and we have a number of initiatives, including the introduction of keep cups for staff, improved waste practices at events, removal of under-desk bins, so we no longer have them. We have introduced food waste recycling at the tuck shop and at staff kitchenettes, soft plastics recycling, as well as regular waste auditing to monitor how we are tracking. And I'm very pleased to say that we have our own worm farm here, which we put our own biodegradable waste in, and it has just undergone an upgrade because they outgrew their old home. So they're busily making space in their new home. We collect their urine, you may be interested in, and we use that for fertiliser. So we are doing some quite innovative things here at Council.
Thank you. Now the next question is from Terafe Ivegu. Hi, Terafe. Thank you for your question. How are funds and resources distributed across all the diverse sporting activities across Wyndham? And I will answer that question. So there's a couple of ways we do that, but we use particularly a couple of our key strategic documents that are both available on the web for you to have a look at if you'd like. First off, just the Wyndham Leisure Strategy. So that talks about the way Council approaches sport and recreation, community and facility development. And the strategy sets out a set of principles and priorities which tells us how funds and resources are to be allocated across different sport and recreation. We then look at allocating funding for sports facilities through an infrastructure strategy, which is our sports strategy, which is currently out for consultation now. And we use a number of policies, both at a federal government level and state where appropriate, to help us to make some decisions about where that funding should be allocated. I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at that strategy, and I can't recall the number of sports that are in that strategy and have been talked about. And if Councillor Maynard, our portfolio councillor, was here, I know that he could quote those figures verbatim. But there's a significant number of sports and a high level of demand, and Council currently tries to balance all of those needs and then allocates funding accordingly. So I hope that provides some advice for you. So the next question is from Aziz Arshad. Aziz, thank you. Wyndham is growing at a faster pace, and law and order, and in brackets safety and security, is a growing concern. What is Council doing or planning to do to improve the law and order situation in Wyndham? So thank you for that question. There's a couple of things I'd be happy to tell you about in that space. I guess first and foremost, it is important for me to mention that, that law and order is a policing issue. First and foremost, our role is very much around working with the community in community building and community development activities to help to create a safer community. But specifically, we have a Safer Communities Portfolio Committee, of which Councillor McAliney is the chair. And that committee brings together both residents and representatives from a range of different organisations to provide advice to Council on things that we could be doing related to community safety. The committee's got an agreed work plan and currently working towards delivering on those actions. So it is very much a shared responsibility. We do work very closely with a number of organisations, including the Neighbourhood Watchers, Crime Stoppers, the local police, and a number of other agencies as well as local community. So there's a lot of things that we are doing in that space. And again, I would suggest that you go to our website if you wanted to get much more information or to contact some of the officers here at Council. Thank you. Feels like it's my night tonight. Okay, so the next one. How is Wyndham Council going to connect with young people in their own environment, for example, online, in order for young people to develop ideas, have a voice for community issues of concern to them? And sorry, that's from Janine Livingston. Hi, Janine. So again, I'll talk to you just a little bit about some of the things that we do, and then perhaps with all of these questions, because there's a lot of information to provide, I'll follow them up with answers in writing. But we have quite a large youth services team here in Wyndham, and a lot of the services we offer are out of our Youth Resource Centre and out of Point Cook. So we do have a range of opportunities and options to engage with young people and for them to be able to provide information and advice back to us. We do that particularly engaging with young people in the environments where they're located, and that could be at shopping centres, at parks, the skate parks, our libraries, and we find we have a lot of young people using our libraries, which is terrific. And dare I say, we also attend local businesses, of which I won't mention the names, where we know young people go to, and we do visit them where they hang out. So it's really important for us to continue those connections with young people, and then we link them in with the sorts of agencies that may be able to help them, such as White Lion or YSAS or Headspace. We also run a range of programs and services to connect with young people, and one of those is the annual Youth Forum, and I don't know if you've heard about that Youth Forum, but that's for grades 8 to 10, and in 2017 we had 160 students from local secondary schools involved in that. We also have a youth, I think we're calling it a youth council, or Councillor Gilligan would be able to tell me the name that we've given the group, the Youth Council. And Councillor Gilligan is our councillor who engages with that youth council and with those young people. So there's quite a lot in that space, but I'm again happy to provide you with some more information in writing. Okay. The next one is from Matthew Majura. Matthew, hi Matthew. We are aware that there are a lot of newly arrived people from other countries with good qualifications but with little English, and they find difficulties looking for local jobs. What plan does the Council have in place for supporting this diverse community to give them local jobs and other types of support to get employment? Sorry, I have got some answers to the questions that I've lost. No, here it is. So while your question specifically relates to newly arrived people, we do ensure, and we are committed to responding not just to newly arrived people, but a whole range of people in our diverse community to ensure that they get opportunities for training and employment. A couple of things that we do is that we sit on the Wyndham Humanitarian Network Employment and Training Working Group. And that group supports and collaborates with local service providers on a range of initiatives to link community with employment opportunities. And as part of that, we support the network with the annual Cultural Awareness Breakfast for employers. We work with JobLink, which is through our Economic Growth Unit. And that's a portal where employers can list their job opportunities and individuals can register, so that's another opportunity. We also, through the Economic Growth Unit, coordinate an annual calendar of free business training and networking opportunities, and so that's available for anyone, and we certainly encourage people who are newly arrived here to participate in those as well. And two particular programs is Enterprising Tarneet and Wyndham Vale programs, and they've been developed in partnership with the Scanlon Foundation and the Centre for Multicultural Youth, and particularly looking at supporting and helping people from diverse backgrounds who've got great ideas for small businesses, and they get some training and opportunity to sell those ideas and possibly get some funding to help them on the way. So again, I'll provide some more information for you in writing in response to that question as well. The next question's from John King. John, hi. So the question is, what are some of the Council's projects, programs or initiatives designed to enhance or build cross-cultural and intercultural awareness and understanding? And again, I will follow up with a full answer in writing because there is quite a bit of information. But we have a Cultural Diversity Portfolio Committee, which again brings together residents and organisations to provide advice to Council on the things that we could be doing in relation to cultural diversity. That committee has a work plan and we're continuing to work on those actions. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah. But some of the specific activities that we undertake, we're involved in the Welcome Dinner, which is facilitated by an organisation called Joining the Dots. And the focus of that dinner is to bring community together, to foster a sense of belonging, community inclusion. We have multi-faith dinners. One of the important things that we're doing is we're looking at our current citizenship ceremonies and looking at how we can make them more culturally significant event for our new community. It's been raised from a number of councillors as a concern about that. We make sure we've got systems in place around translation and interpretation services. For community, we promote the neighbourhood and identity inclusion and connection grants to diverse communities and organisations, and we implement the diversity, inclusion and EEO policy here at Council. So that's just a few of the things, and again, I'll provide you with some more information. Okay, question from Lisa Heinrichs, and Lisa's here. Hi. In light of ongoing concern over the safety of significant trees on Geelong Road, and with the City Forest and Habitat before councillors tonight, will Council write to Vic Roads and Development Victoria and respectfully request that redesignation of the Avenues of Honour happen before the centenary of the end of World War I, that's in November 2018, and that name plaques be reinstated as in 1919, and that an arch be installed commemorating the Calder Memorial, which was going to be part of Memorial originally. It will be a show of good faith by all parties in respect to our heritage, those who fought for our future, and residents past and present who want to see it respected. So if I could ask Stephen Thorpe, our Director of City Operations, to respond.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So thank you, Lisa, for the question. We actually have a meeting with Development Victoria scheduled later this week, so I'd be happy for that matter to be raised directly with them at the meeting. We also have a meeting scheduled with Vic Roads. It's part of our regular series of meetings with our local region. And again, we can raise that question with them. Given the trees are within the road reserve controlled by Vic Roads, ultimately it will be up to them to determine whether or not this is something they think is something they can do. Of course, there's nothing stopping residents writing directly to both Vic Roads and Development Victoria raising the same issue. Thank
you. So I have another question here from Shane Coburn. Shane, you're here. So the question is to Councillor Khan. Now, I will start by saying that this is a question that is related to a matter which is outside the powers or duties of council. So while I will ask the question, given it's outside our powers, there won't be an answer here for you this evening. I can provide you with an answer in writing. My question is to Councillor Khan. Why don't you stand down as councillor for Wyndham Council until charges laid against you by the Victorian Government are finalised? So I will take that on notice and provide an answer to you. The next question is from Bill Strong. Bill's here. Thank you. Bill, the question, tonight's agenda item 8.3, attachment 3, Instrument of Delegation Heritage Act 1995, page 49 of the attachment refers to maintaining a copy of the Heritage Register as it relates to any place in the municipal district. Question, when will the current Wyndham Heritage Register be next updated? There have been many changes to the listing and nominations for inclusion since the last panel hearing report was adopted in 2009. And I'm throwing to Director of City Operations, Steve Thorpe.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Neither the Director of City Economy, Innovation, Livability nor I are aware of any plans to update the Heritage Register, Mr Strong. However, I'll take that question on notice and make further inquiries and confirm that's the case and then advise you in writing.
Thank you. And a further question from Bill Strong. Today's agenda item 6.4.1, 21 Station Street, Little River, former Manor Railway Station site. Paragraph 2 of the background on page 24 of 223 states that the proposed site is within an area of cultural heritage sensitivity. Could Council please explain in greater detail what is the nature of the cultural heritage sensitivity that is being referred to? And if I could again throw to Council's Director of City Operations, Stephen Thorpe.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Thank you again, Mr Strong, for the question. My understanding is that this is an area of cultural heritage sensitivity, given it's the former or the site of the former Manor Railway Station, and as such it forms part of the sort of pattern of cultural history within Wyndham. It's not actually my area of expertise, so again I'm happy to make further inquiries and advise you in writing as to the reasons that it's seen in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm just checking to make sure. I think that was all the questions. Yes, thank you. So if I could hand back to you.
Okay, thank you. Item 11, Councillor Delegate Reports, pages 217 and 218 with recommendation on 218, with attachments on page 219 to 223. Moved by Councillor Khan, seconded by Councillor Gibbons. Discussion, councillors. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Look, it's important now to know that why we do these things, because we have established this portfolio on 16th of November 2016 with the 12 portfolio holders. They're listed on page 217, And as part of that, on the clause 7 of the councillors meeting protocols 2013, we need to submit a report that can be verbally or submit in writing. Now, I have a pleasure to be report on my delegation report, which is we met on 22nd of May 2017, along with my fellow councillor Tony Hooper. And also, though, thank you for the staff members, Aaron, Charles and Chris Demosky, and also the committee members, those who are present in that committee, Das, Dinama, Alda, Heather, which she's no longer a part of the committee, so she won't be any more part of the committee, Elaine and Anita Davis. Now, we did discuss about the number of the items, and that was pretty much to discuss about how the urban context of the Wyndham can be improved and discussed, and that was pretty much discussing about the opportunities in Wyndham and how the growth and challenges we face regarding the transport, regarding the train stations, the schools and so forth, and the park. So I had a pleasure to chair about it, and we, part of the committee, we have outlined the plan, so we're working on the plan now. So I would be reporting as we approaching the successful plan, and yeah, you see the good work coming out of the urban future growth. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Hooper.
I just wanted to touch on that particular delegate's report as well, because it goes back to one of the questions from the floor. We look at the precinct structure plans, which is what the government has said we're going to grow like, and try to, well, work out where Wyndham's going to be in 2040. The population base, we're looking at a almost doubling of where we are now. We're 224,000 souls, and we're looking at, was it 416 or something like that by 2036? And so we need to look at innovative ways to manage road transport and all those sort of things. So this portfolio in particular, it's really forward focused. So although a lot of those levers, the state government, we do try to influence and plan as best we can that sort of growth capacity. So, there.
Thanks you, Councillor Hooper. No further discussions. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Item 12, any urgent business?
No, there is no urgent business.
Item.
Make a quick comment about my report, please.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Gibbons. I didn't see.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry.
Did you? So you were late. Okay, no, that's fine. You could.
The report on the tourism and nature events is attached for.
Councillor Gibbons, could you just put your microphone down?
The report on tourism and major events is attached for you, but I'd just like to point out in this month's RACV journal, there was a big article on Werribee, which was really good, and I will be discussing that at our next meeting. But I think if you haven't read it, have a read. It's really good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gibbons. Item 13, confidential business. I'm told to move a motion.
Yes. That pursuant to section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989, standing orders be suspended and this meeting of council be closed to members of the public in order for council to discuss 3 matters of designated as confidential.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. I ask the public to leave the room and
We
return.
need to vote on it. We need to vote on it.
Sorry. A move by Councillor Khan, seconded by.
Was it moved by me? Moved by second.
Moved by Councillor Hooper, seconded by Councillor Khan.
We'll get there eventually.
And I ask everyone to leave the room.
So now we need to take a vote.
All in favour? Motion's carried.
We're amongst friends here.
Yep. Councillor Gilligan.
We're still needing to take a vote.
businesses proceed.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to close the meeting.
Call for the recommendations on the closed meeting. Confidential.
I haven't got that. Oh, call for a motion that the recommendation of the closed meeting of council with regards to confidential matters be adopted. Councillor Hooper, Councillor Gibbons, all in favour? Against, motion's carried. I now declare the meeting closed at 8:55. Thank you.